Welcome to Benny Stories, the home of timeless folk tales and powerful life lessons. Hit subscribe, tap the bell, and give a quick thumbs up. Now, let's dive straight into today's story. Amara adjusted the strap of her handbag as she stood in front of the tall glass doors of the law firm. Lego's sun reflected off the building, making it shine like a fortress of success. For her, this was more than just another job. This was a chance to finally rise above the whispers of poverty that had trailed her all her life. Her heart raced as she walked through the lobby. Heads turned. Men glanced once, then twice. Women exchanged quick looks, some of admiration, some of judgment. She was tall, with skin the shade of deep bronze, cheekbones sharp enough to frame her determination, and a smile that could light up a dark room. It wasn't just a beauty that made people pause. It was a presence. She walked with the quiet confidence of someone who had fought too many battles to bow easily, but she could feel the weight of the stays pressing into her back. Was this triumph, or the start of trouble? Inside the boardroom, the senior partners sat in a semicircle. Barrister Chaik, head of the firm, watched her with careful eyes. He had seen many associates, but something about Amara pulled at him. Her resume had impressed, but her aura was something else entirely. "Welcome to the firm," Chaik said, extending a hand. His grip lingered a second too long. She didn't notice. Or maybe she did, but ignored it. She was here to work, to prove herself. Yet even as she sat down, the whispers around her began. She won't last. She's too pretty for this grind. Watch. The boss already likes her. Amara inhaled sharply, keeping her face calm. They saw her beauty. They didn't see her long nights of studying under candlelight. They didn't see her mother's hands, worn and tired, pushing her to fight for this chance. For them, beauty was triumph. For Amara, beauty was just a door. What mattered was what she did once she walked in. 2 weeks in, Amara had already made herself indispensable. She drafted airtight briefs, stayed late to cross-check cases, and argued her points with sharp precision during meetings. Even the skeptical partners were forced to nod in agreement, yet the attention never left her. Clients shook her hand longer than necessary. Colleagues stared at her during presentations, barely hiding it. For Amara, it was exhausting. She wanted her mind to shine, not her face. One late evening, Chaik leaned against her office door, watching as she typed furiously. "You know," he said softly, "you work harder than most of my associates, and you make it look easy." She looked up, cautious. "Thank you, sir. I don't take this opportunity lightly." He smiled. "Don't call me sir. Just Chaik." The words lingered, hanging in the air heavier than the files on her desk. The next day, Amara's photo appeared on the firm's official page, standing beside Chaik during a client signing. Comments poured in on social media. Some praised her brilliance. Others reduced her to nothing but looks. "Of course she's moving up," one anonymous account sneered. "Let's not pretend it's her law degree." Amara scrolled through the comments late at night, tears stinging her eyes. Triumph fell hollow when it came with daggers of envy. The whispers grew louder inside the firm. She was at the boss's side again. No one rises that fast without reason. Maybe he has a soft spot. Amara heard them all. She clenched her fists in silence, pretending the words didn't matter. But they did. They cut deep. Every case she won, every late night she endured, they erased it with a smirk and a shrug. Ada, another associate, made her disdain plain. "Don't think your face will carry you forever," she hissed one afternoon as they left the courtroom. "Clients might be blinded, but judges are not." Amara swallowed hard. She wanted to snap back, to remind Ada that she had done the work. But she held her tongue. Later that night, she looked at herself in the mirror. The same face everyone else saw as a ticket, she saw as a mask. If triumph was written on her face, it was written in a language she didn't choose. She whispered to her reflection, "I'll make them see me, not just my beauty. Me." It was Friday evening when Chaik called her into his office. "There's a charity gala tomorrow night," he said, adjusting his cufflinks. "The firm is sponsoring a table. I want you to represent us." Her heart skipped. "Why me? There are other associates." "Because you've earned it," he cut in. "And you carry yourself well in public. It's not just about lure, Amara. It's about presence. She wanted to refuse, but she couldn't. The gala wasn't just an event. It was exposure, networking, a chance to cement her reputation. She nodded. The next night, she stepped into the grand hall wearing a bright anchor gown, stitched to perfection. Gold earrings dangled against her skin. She looked like royalty. Cameras flashed. Conversations halted as she passed. Even celebrities paused to ask who she was. For once, Amara let herself bask in it. Maybe beauty could be triumph, if wielded right. But as she stood beside Chaik, smiling for yet another photo, a small voice in her chest whispered, "This triumph has a price." The gala was in full swing. Laughter, clinking glasses, soft music in the background. Amara found herself surrounded by admirers, businessmen, politicians, other lawyers. But it was Chaik's presence beside her that drew the most attention. At one point, he leaned close, voice low. "You outshine every woman here tonight." Her body stiffened. The compliment felt less like admiration and more like acclaim. She forced a smile, pretending she didn't hear the undertone. But his eyes lingered, far too long. On her way home, Amara sat in the back of the Uber, staring out the window. Lagos lights blurred past. She touched her earrings, still glittering under the street lamps, and asked herself the question she had been avoiding. Was her success at the firm because of her skills, or because of how Chaik saw her? The thought chilled her. Triumph never felt so fragile. Back at the firm, the glow of the gala lingered on everyone's lips. Photos of Amara beside Chaik had gone viral on Instagram. Colleagues smiled to her face but whispered when her back was turned. The worst of them was Ada. She walked past Amara's desk one morning and accidentally knocked over her neatly stacked case files. Papers scattered across the floor like fallen feathers. "Oh, so sorry," Ada said, lips curled in a smirk. "You should really keep things tighter. Wouldn't want anyone thinking you're only here to look pretty." Amara knelt to pick up the papers, jaw clenched. She wanted to respond but bit her tongue. Every word she spoke could be twisted into proof that she was the favorite. That week, her case notes went missing twice. Drafts she swore she saved on the system mysteriously disappeared. Deadlines loomed, and though she covered her tracks with extra effort, the sabotage was clear. One night, as she stayed back late to rewrite her missing brief, she caught Ada's reflection in the glass door. Ada wasn't supposed to be there. Their eyes locked. No words were spoken, but the message was loud. "I'm watching you, and I'll drag you down." Amara's beauty had once made her proud. Now it painted a target on her back. The following Monday, Amara arrived at her desk to find a small, elegant box wrapped in gold ribbon. Confused, she looked around. "It was delivered this morning," the secretary whispered with a grin. "From the boss." Her chest tightened. She untied the ribbon cautiously and lifted the lid. Inside lay a crystal perfume bottle, imported, expensive, worth more than her monthly rent. Heat rose to her cheeks. She quickly closed the box and slid it into her drawer. Later, she went to Chaik's office. "Sir," she stopped herself. "Chaik, I can't accept this. It's inappropriate." But he leaned back in his chair, smiling as if amused by her innocence. "It's just appreciation. You're one of the best associates I've ever had. Don't overthink it." She nodded stiffly, leaving with the gift still in her possession. That night, she set the box on her table and stared at it. Her mother's voice echoed in her mind. Not every gift is a blessing. Some are traps dressed in ribbons. Amara pushed the box into her wardrobe, burying it under clothes. She felt ashamed, not for receiving it, but for the doubt it planted inside her. The announcement came suddenly. "We're sending you and Chaik to Abuja for a major case," the managing partner said. Amara froze. Abuja, a whole week away with Chaik. She wanted to object, but the opportunity was too great to refuse. This was the type of assignment that could cement her name in the industry. On the flight, Chaik was all business, briefing her on the clients. But she noticed the subtle things, the way his eyes lingered too long, the way he leaned closer than necessary. In Abuja, they worked tirelessly. Amara impressed the clients with her sharp arguments and attention to detail. She was brilliant, and she knew it. At night, in her hotel room, she prayed, "Let them see my work, not just my face." But on the last evening, during a celebratory dinner, a client laughed and said, "Chaik, you're lucky to have such a beautiful partner. How do you even concentrate?" The table erupted in laughter. Amara's smile froze. Chaik chuckled, raising his glass. Some distractions are worth having. Her stomach churned. She excused herself early, walking alone under the Abuja night sky. The air was heavy, her heart heavier. She realized the line between triumph and temptation was blurring dangerously. The next day, as they wrapped up their meetings, Chaik invited her to dinner, just the two of us. Amara hesitated but agreed. Refusal could be misread as disrespect. They sat at a quiet restaurant, soft jazz playing in the background. He praised her performance in Abuja, calling her the firm's brightest light. She smiled politely, but when he added, "I admire more than your work," her heart dropped. She straightened her shoulders. "Chaik, I'm here as your associate, nothing more." For a moment, his expression hardened. Then he softened it with a laugh, waving his hand. "Relax, Amara. Don't be so serious." But she wasn't laughing. That night, lying in her hotel bed, she replayed his words. She realized her career hung on a fragile line, one she hadn't chosen, but one she would be judged by. If she pushed back too hard, she could lose everything. If she stayed silent, she could lose herself. Back in Lagos, Amara tried to bury the Abuja memories in work. But the whispers grew louder. Pictures of her and Chaik in Abuja surfaced on Instagram, tagged with snide captions, "Work trip or pleasure trip." One evening, as she locked her office, her phone buzzed with an unknown number. She opened the message and froze. Careful. The wife always finds out. Her breath caught. She looked around the empty hallway, heart pounding. Who sent this? How did they know? That night, she couldn't sleep. She lay awake, staring at the ceiling. For the first time, Ngozi, Chaik's wife, entered her thoughts. She had never met her, never even considered her. But now, the name carried weight, danger, and inevitability. Amara whispered to herself in the dark, "This isn't triumph anymore. This is a storm waiting to break." It started with a magazine cover. Amara was waiting at the salon when her eyes fell on the glossy pages of a lifestyle magazine. There, in bold letters, was a headline, "Ngozi Chaik, the woman behind the empire." She picked it up hesitantly. Ngozi stared back at her from the cover, a woman of regal beauty, wrapped in flowing silk, her smile calm yet commanding. The article spoke of her philanthropy, her investments, her influence in business circles. She wasn't just a wife, she was a force. Amara's stomach twisted. This wasn't some invisible woman at home, waiting quietly for her husband. This was a woman who built bridges, who funded schools, who held politicians in her contact list. Amara realized every step she had taken into Chaik's world was on Ngozi's turf. That night, she lay awake replaying Ngozi's image. A shadow loomed over her triumph, one she hadn't considered before. Suddenly, every compliment from Chaik felt like stolen ground. The office was electric with gossip. The Abuja trip had left waves in its wake. At the water dispenser, Amara overheard two junior associates whispering, "Have you seen Ngozi? If she finds out, Amara's done." "Finds out? Please, she probably already knows." Amara's hand shook as she filled her cup. The walls of the firm seemed to close in on her. Later that day, Ada cornered her in the restroom. "You think you're special? Let me give you free advice. Ngozi owns half of this firm. You? You're replaceable." Amara froze. Half of the firm? The realization hit her like a slap. Ngozi wasn't just Chaik's wife. She was part of the foundation Amara was trying to build her career on. That evening, she packed her files slowly, aware of eyes on her. For the first time, her desk, once a symbol of triumph, felt like a throne made of glass. Amara couldn't take it anymore. She marched into Chaik's office, closing the door behind her. "We need to talk," she said, voice steady but heart racing. He looked up, amused. "About what?" "About this. The way you speak to me. The gifts. The looks. People are talking." I worked too hard to have my reputation reduced to gossip. Tyke leaned back, lips curling. Let them talk. They are jealous. You're brilliant, Amara, and beautiful. Why pretend those can't coexist? She stepped closer, anger burning in her chest. Because it's ruining me. I don't want to be your distraction. I want to be a lawyer. I want my work to stand, not whispers. For a moment, silence stretched between them. Then Tyke's expression hardened. Ngozi is busy with her charities. She won't interfere. Trust me. But instead of relief, his words chilled her. It wasn't reassurance. It was arrogance. He underestimated the very woman Amara had just begun to fear. Another high-profile gala came weeks later, this one grander, louder, attended by business leaders, politicians, celebrities. The firm was a sponsor again, and Amara was expected to attend. She wore a golden gown this time, shimmering under chandeliers. As she entered the ballroom, heads turned. She felt every gaze, every whispered word. For a fleeting moment, she allowed herself to stand tall, to let her presence command the room. Tyke stayed close, offering introductions, his hand brushing hers one too many times. Cameras clicked. Her smile stayed fixed, though her heart thudded uneasily. Then she noticed it. Across the room, cutting through the glitter and chatter, a pair of eyes locked onto Hayes. Ngozi. She was even more striking in person, grace wrapped in power. She didn't rush, didn't frown. She simply moved with deliberate steps, her gown flowing like water, her smile poised. But her gaze? Sharp as a blade. Amara's breath caught. The whispers around her grew louder, buzzing like bees. That's her. The wife. Oh, it's about to happen. The triumph Amara had worn like a crown shattered in an instant. The ballroom fell into a hush as Ngozi approached. Guests turned, sensing drama. Cameras poised themselves, ready for the moment. Tyke stiffened, his confident smile faltering. He muttered under his breath, "Stay calm." But his words sounded like a man bracing for impact. Ngozi reached them, her smile never wavering. She extended a hand to Amara. "You must be the rising star I've heard so much about." Amara's hands trembled as she shook it. Ngozi's grip was firm, her eyes steady, unblinking. "You're very beautiful," Ngozi said, voice calm, measured. "Beauty is a gift. But gifts, if not guarded, can destroy." The words landed heavy, slicing through the silence. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Amara's throat tightened. She wanted to speak, to defend herself, to say she was not the woman they thought she was. But no words came. Ngozi turned to Tyke, her smile sharper now. "Shall we? Day." With that, she slipped her arm through his and walked away, leaving Amara rooted to the floor, her heart pounding in her ears. In that moment, Amara realized her beauty, once seen as triumph, had become the stage for her public undoing. The silence of the ballroom still echoed in Amara's ears long after Ngozi's words. That night, she barely slept. Her phone buzzed endlessly with messages, colleagues, friends, even strangers gossiping about the scene. Screenshots and short clips were already spreading online, captioned, "When the wife walks in." At the office the next day, whispers grew louder. Ada smirked with satisfaction. Amara kept her head down, drowning herself in files, determined not to crumble. But her heart ached. The triumph she had carried so proudly was now the butt of jokes on social media. A week later, Ngozi herself walked into the firm. Her presence silenced the entire office. She moved with the grace of royalty, every step calculated. She asked for Amara by name. In a private room, Ngozi sat across from her. "You're talented," she began, voice calm but firm. "But talent can drown when tied to men like my husband." Amara's lips trembled. I didn't." Ngozi raised a hand. "I know. I've seen women like you before. Smart, ambitious, dragged into storms they never asked for. I'm not here to shame you. I'm here to warn you." Amara swallowed hard, blinking back tears. For the first time, she realized Ngozi wasn't just powerful. She was perceptive, unshaken by the chaos her husband created. "Guard your gift," Ngozi said softly. "Beauty is light, but without wisdom, light blinds. Those words carved themselves into Amora's heart. Later that evening, Amara lingered near Chaik's office and overheard Ray's voices. "You embarrass me in front of everyone." Chaik barked. Ngozi's reply was steady. "No, you embarrass yourself. You always think you can hide behind your charm. But I see everything. Chaik, everything." There was silence. Then Ngozi's voice cut through again, sharper now. "Do you know why this firm still stands? Because I built it with you. I protected it when you were reckless. You chase shadows while I hold the wall from crumbling. And now, you risk it all for vanity." Amara pressed a hand against her chest, heart racing. She hadn't wanted to eavesdrop, but her feet felt cemented to the floor. Chaik's voice lowered, softer now. "Ngozi, you're overreacting. Nothing happened." Ngozi's laugh was bitter. "Maybe not yet, but you plant seeds of ruin everywhere you go. And women like her," her voice dipped, almost tender, "don't deserve to pay the price for your weakness." Amara stumbled back before they could notice her, her mind spinning. The wife knew. She always knew. Yet instead of rage, Ngozi's anger was directed at her husband, not at Amara. That revelation cracked something open inside Amara, fear mixed with admiration. The next morning, Amara typed out a resignation letter. Her hands shook as she wrote. She couldn't do it anymore. The stays, the whispers, the feeling of standing on a cliff edge with no ground beneath her. When she dropped the letter on Chaik's desk, he looked startled. "You can't be serious. You're one of the best. Ignore the noise." She met his eyes, steady this time. "It's not noise. It's my name. My future. I won't let it be dragged through mud I didn't step in." As she turned to leave, a voice stopped her. Ngozi. She was standing at the door, arms crossed, eyes sharp. "Don't walk away," Ngozi said. "Not like this." Amara froze. "I can't stay here. Everyone will always talk." Ngozi interrupted. "If it isn't beauty, it will be your brain. If it isn't your brain, it will be your ambition. They will always find something to fear." Amara blinked, unsure if she was hearing encouragement or warning. Ngozi stepped closer, her tone softening. "Don't let men write your story for you. Write it yourself. Build something no one can take away." For the first time in weeks, hope flickered in Amara's chest. Maybe leaving the firm wasn't an end. It could be a beginning. Months passed. Amara poured herself into a new venture, a consultancy for young professionals, helping women navigate workplace politics and rise by merit, not manipulation. It wasn't easy. There were days she doubted herself, days the whispers still echoed in her ears. But she pressed on. Slowly, clients came. Slowly, her name spread, not as a pretty associate beside Chaik, but as a woman who helps women win. One evening, Ngozi visited her modest office. She looked around, nodding approvingly. "You did it," she said. Amara smiled faintly. "Not yet, but I'm trying." Ngozi placed an envelope on her desk. Inside was a check, seed funding for her consultancy. "Consider this an investment, not in your beauty, in your vision." Tears filled Amara's eyes. For the first time, she felt seen, not as a face, but as a force. Her beauty had once looked like triumph. But now, her triumph was her voice, her work, her purpose. A year later, Amara stood on the stage of a women's conference. The hall was packed, cameras flashing, phones recording. She adjusted the microphone and looked out at the sea of faces. "When I first entered the legal world," she began, "people saw my face before they saw my mind. They thought my beauty was my crown. But I learned something hard and true. Beauty without wisdom is a trap. It can blind others, and it can blind you." The audience listened in silence, hanging on her words. I almost lost myself because I believed my triumph was what others said it was. But true triumph isn't in being admired. It's in being remembered for what you built, what you gave, what you changed. She raised her chin, her voice firm. "So don't just walk into the room because they admire how you look. Walk in because you own the ground beneath your feet." The hall erupted in applause. Women rose to their feet, cheering. In the crowd, Ngozi clapped too, a small smile tugging her lips. Amara's story had come full circle. Her beauty had drawn eyes, but her courage had kept them watching, and her wisdom would make them remember.